The Detroit Lions quarterback situation just entered territory that nobody in this organization wants to acknowledge publicly, and the dominoes falling along our offensive line could trigger a chain reaction that fundamentally alters the trajectory of this franchise for the next decade. Welcome back to Lions News Fan Report, your most trusted source for breaking updates, exclusive analysis, and comprehensive coverage of everything happening with our beloved Detroit Lions. I'm bringing you critical information today about a situation developing quietly behind the scenes that connects directly to our most important player, details about structural concerns that could force impossible decisions sooner than anyone expects, and insights into contingency plans that the organization might need to consider if current trends continue. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications, because what I'm about to reveal involves the cornerstone of our entire offensive operation. The foundation of championship football is crumbling in Detroit, and while everyone's celebrating our success this season, there's an underlying structural problem that could derail everything we've built if it's not addressed immediately and effectively. I need you to understand something critical about modern NFL football. Elite quarterbacks don't just need weapons. They don't just need play callers. They need protection. They need an offensive line that gives them time to operate, that keeps them upright and healthy, that allows them to execute the sophisticated passing concepts that make this offense so dangerous. Without that protection, even the most talented quarterbacks become vulnerable, ineffective, and eventually frustrated enough to consider options they never thought they'd have to contemplate. Taylor Decker has been dropping hints about his future with the Lions that range from ominous to borderline alarming. Our veteran left tackle, the anchor who's been protecting the blind side for years, is sending signals that his time in Detroit might be coming to an end sooner than we anticipated. Now let me be clear about what Decker's potential departure would mean for this franchise. Left tackle is arguably the second most important position on an NFL roster after quarterback. It's the position responsible for protecting the quarterback's blind side, the position that faces the opponent's best pass rusher every single week, the position that determines whether your franchise quarterback stays healthy or ends up on injured reserve. The current state of our offensive line depth is concerning to say the least. Penei Sewell and rookie Tate Ratledge feel like the only sure thing offensive linemen set to return next season and start. Think about that for a moment. Out of 5 starting positions on the offensive line, we can only confidently project 2 starters for next season. That's not depth. That's a crisis waiting to happen. The free agent market heading into 2026 isn't offering much help either. Outside of potentially acquiring center Tyler Linderbaum or tackle Rasheed Walker, the pickings are slim for established veteran offensive linemen who can step in and contribute immediately at a high level. This brings me to the situation that's been keeping people in the Lions organization up at night, the scenario that nobody wants to discuss openly, but that everyone's quietly preparing for. The depth chart behind our current starters is alarmingly thin. Dan Skipper and Giovanni Manu represent our current backup options at tackle, and while they're serviceable in emergency situations, they're far from the caliber of players you want protecting your franchise quarterback for extended periods. We've cycled through multiple options at left guard, including Christian Mahogany, rookie Miles Frazier, Kayode Wosika, and Tristan Cullen, and none of them have impressed to the point where the coaching staff feels confident we've found a long-term solution. Now here's where this situation connects directly to Jared Goff and why his future with the Lions might not be as secure as everyone assumes. Goff came to Detroit and resurrected his career in spectacular fashion. He went from being viewed as a bust in Los Angeles to becoming one of the most efficient and productive quarterbacks in the NFL. But that transformation didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened because he had elite protection from an offensive line that gave him time to operate, that allowed him to work through progressions, that kept him clean and upright so he could deliver accurate passes to his receivers. Remove that protection, and you remove the foundation that's allowed Goff to thrive in Detroit. The reality that no Lions fan wants to confront is simple but brutal. If we can't adequately protect Jared Goff, if our offensive line deteriorates to the point where he's getting hit consistently, where he's under constant pressure, where he can't trust the guys in front of him to give him time to throw, then we're facing a scenario where Goff himself might start questioning whether Detroit is still the right place for him to finish his career. Elite quarterbacks have options. They have leverage. And while Goff has expressed nothing but loyalty and commitment to this franchise, there's a limit to how much punishment any player will endure before exploring alternatives. Let me paint you a hypothetical scenario that keeps me awake at night. Imagine we go into next season with a patchwork offensive line featuring question marks at left tackle, left guard, and potentially right guard. Imagine Goff takes a significant number of hits early in the season because the protection breaks down repeatedly. Imagine other teams with more stable offensive line situations start looking at Goff as a potential upgrade at quarterback and begin making inquiries. Imagine Goff's agent starts having conversations about whether Detroit is truly committed to protecting their franchise quarterback. That's how quickly these situations can spiral from stable to catastrophic in the NFL. The good news, and I'm genuinely optimistic about this, is that the Lions organization recognizes this problem and is actively working on solutions. The 2026 NFL Draft represents our best opportunity to address these offensive line concerns comprehensively. According to mock draft projections, the Lions could target Caden Proctor from Alabama with their first-round pick. Proctor is the third-ranked offensive lineman in this draft class and has been absolutely dominant at Alabama this season. He's allowed just 1 sack, 3 quarterback hits, and 16 total pressures according to advanced metrics. That's elite pass protection at the college level against top-tier competition. If Decker does retire or move on, Proctor represents an immediate plug-and-play solution at left tackle who could step in and provide high-level protection from day one. Even if Decker decides to stay for one more season, having Proctor learn behind him for a year would give us the perfect succession plan at the most critical position on the offensive line. The Lions are also projected to target Emmanuel Pregnon from Oregon in the second round. Pregnon started every game at left guard for USC in 2024 and didn't allow a single sack at that position. He's been described by draft analysts as an overpowering guard with the tools to become a long-term starting guard in the NFL. These 2 draft picks represent a comprehensive solution to our offensive line concerns. Proctor at left tackle and Pregnon at left guard would give us bookend protectors on the left side of the line, creating the kind of stability that allows quarterbacks to operate with confidence. Combined with Penei Sewell's elite play at right tackle and Ratledge's development, we'd suddenly have one of the most promising young offensive lines in the NFL. That's the foundation you build around a quarterback like Jared Goff. That's how you ensure he stays in Detroit and continues performing at an elite level for years to come. But here's the critical question that frames this entire discussion. What happens if we don't successfully execute this plan? What if Proctor or Pregnon don't pan out? What if we miss on these draft picks like we've missed on previous offensive line selections? What if Goff goes into next season behind a struggling offensive line and starts taking significant punishment? At what point does the situation become untenable? At what point does Goff's camp start exploring whether there are better situations elsewhere where he could finish his career with proper protection and legitimate championship aspirations? I don't believe we're at that crisis point yet, and I'm genuinely optimistic that our scouting department and draft room will identify and acquire the right players to shore up this offensive line. The Lions have demonstrated competence in talent evaluation recently, and I trust that they understand the urgency of this situation. But transparency requires acknowledging that if we don't fix these problems, if we don't give Goff the protection he needs and deserves, then we're opening the door to scenarios where his future in Detroit becomes uncertain. The speculation around Goff potentially leaving Detroit isn't based on any reports of him being unhappy or requesting a trade. It's based on the logical progression of what happens when you can't protect your franchise quarterback. It's based on understanding that elite players have options and will exercise those options if their current situation becomes untenable. It's based on recognizing that the window for championship contention is finite and that players of Goff's caliber want to maximize their remaining prime years in situations that give them the best chance to win. So here's my direct question for every Lions fan watching. Do you believe the Lions will successfully address these offensive line concerns through the draft? Are you confident that Proctor and Pregnan, or whoever we target, will provide the protection Goff needs? And honestly, how concerned are you about the possibility, however remote, that if we don't fix these problems, Goff might start exploring his options? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I genuinely want to know how Lions Nation views this critical situation. The bottom line is that Jared Goff's future in Detroit is intrinsically tied to our ability to protect him. If we nail these draft picks, if we build an elite offensive line around him, then he'll continue being our quarterback and leading this team toward championship aspirations for years to come. But if we fail to address these concerns, if the protection deteriorates and Goff starts taking unnecessary punishment, then we're creating conditions where even the most loyal player might reconsider his options. I'm optimistic we'll get this right, but vigilance requires acknowledging what's at stake if we don't. If you want to stay updated on every development regarding the Lions' offensive line situation, draft strategy, and how these decisions impact our championship window, you absolutely must be subscribed to Lions News Fan Report. I'll bring you breaking news the moment it happens, detailed draft analysis, and insider perspectives on how the organization is addressing these critical roster needs. Hit that like button right now, share this with every Lions fan you know, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Let's go get that championship, Lions Nation.